once again come into this second session, of which we have a topic of discussion evaluating the way how corruption is being eliminated or has been eliminated in our country. If at all it is eliminated, I don't know. I will leave it to the guests, because for us, for purpose of the viewers, we want to make an evaluation that will guide us on how we can be keen more than ever before to fight against corruption in this country. We continue to state that it is a disaster to economic development. The other day I was talking about different types of disaster, but corruption is a disaster. It destroys, it kills a generation. And it's high time we admit it and continue to fight against it until it's normal. If you can have the people who have the moral vibe that can strongly fight against corruption, it is possible to overcome it. We have countries which were able to overcome it. Their guests referring to China and others who decisively fought against corruption. We are talking about the corruption, especially dealing with the swindling, the scandals of loss of public resources. With us, we are happy to have been joined by Honorable Henry Banyenzachi. And I always recall the work you did, and which can never be erased, as a former state minister in the Office of President for Economic Monitoring. And we are dealing with issues of the economy, of where we know the moment corruption it is at a higher apex, then also we know that development goes lower. Please kindly greet the viewers as we will proceed with him, who was giving us some good situation analysis.
Thank you, Doctor, for this interface, for this very important subject matter. And it's a subject matter that we take back to the leadership of this country to make sure that they take action. Because corruption cannot be eliminated through advocacy. Because we have seen advocacy in this country to the extent we have seen the president, the whole executive, parliament, judiciary, and my colleague had talked about it, demonstrating about on corruption, taking over the role of civil society organization. So this issue of advocacy, however much we make noise, there must be action. And this action must be legal. And there must be implementation such that the corrupt are corrupt. If you don't have this corrupt being going to serve to refund the money and pay penalties, we shall still talk, we shall shout and shout, we shall shout and shout until the world ends. We want to see, for me, I would say, let the leadership take the mantle. If the leadership don't serve the example, and as my colleague had said, we don't see the big fish going to answer for their crimes of this corruption, then the economic development we are talking about of this country can never be. The leakage we are having, the hemorrhage in this country that we are having, the scandals that we are having, and the scandals of the corruption are daily, and not even daily. It is second per second, second per minute, minute per hour, hour per day, day per month. It cannot continue like this.
Thank you, Honorable Banyenzachi. Before I go to my colleague, I want first to pose a question to you and kindly pay attention to it. We are here as a good team, Ugandans in the first context, where we have one with the civil society, and we have also Mr. Maron Agava. He's from the civil society, doesn't either side with any political ideology. Honorable Dennis Onekalit Amere, the MP Chitugu municipality, as you know, is very well smart. In blue is FDC. Yeah, he believes in the Forum for Democratic Change, that is his party. And also, our senior colleague here, Honorable Banyenzachi, at a certain time he was the chairperson of his constituency and also, of course, a member of the National Justice Committee of the NRM. And and is still a member of the National Resistance Movement. Yes. The question I posed to you, yes, having given you that background, you seem to continue supporting a system that has lied to Ugandans that they are ready to fight against corruption to zero tolerance. And yourself, you look at it and yet we don't know what has gone wrong. and the inability, efficiency and ineffectiveness to fight against corruption by the ruling political party that you believe in. What exactly would you tell us in 3 or 5 minutes?
The question you're asking me is, one time we were, I think, a radio talk show, and we were having this kind of discussion. And at that time, nobody had come up to own up and accept that there is corruption in government. Until when the president started saying, yes, there is corruption, and everybody started, yes, there is corruption. It was a small number of us, and they used to call us rebel MPs. And I think up to now, there's only I was the leader of that group. And I think I'm now a militant leader. Now, at that time, somebody called me on radio and said, Gwe, you was using Uganda. Why don't you leave our party? If you are talking about this, there is corruption in the government and the ruling party is NRM. I told him, how can we leave the ruling party, which is NRM, and we leave out and we leave the thieves to govern us? And I said, we shall stay put and fight these thieves who are causing chaos to this country. It's the same question you're asking me.
Yes.
And I'm not ready, and I'm with many, to get out of a system that is governing this country, because we are talking, they're saying that there's corruption in this country, and leave the corrupt on the steering wheel, and leave those corrupt people to govern this country. That means that you are giving them an opportunity to steal more and more and more without being controlled. So my take on this is that all the leaders of NRM, join hands together. Let the president himself do what the president of Singapore did. Lee Kuan Yew, who did not accept any corrupted person in his system. But this business of saying you are corrupt and then you are rewarded more, you are given a better job, you are just changed from one job to another, it doesn't work. So for this country, we want a leadership, we want the president, prime minister, we want to have the ministers, we want the whole cabinet. But we don't know, they have reduced the whole government machinery. The government has been reduced, the leaders have been reduced to be transactional leaders. The government is transactional, parliament is transactional, cabinet is transactional, state house is transactional. We do not want to see a transactional system.
That is tantamount to a total crisis.
Yes, it is. True. When we are talking about 24 trillion lost in this very short time, we are not even talking about it. What we are losing and what we are losing, the money that we are losing through procurement is much more. If we are losing to the tune of 20% of the budget per annum, because we are talking about 24 trillion over a period of time, and as the we progress, the figure becomes higher and higher and higher and bigger. So if we are losing 20%, how much is 20% of the budget per annum? That is too much. Can you imagine how much 20% of the budget it was not being, for example, agriculture, we are giving it less than about 8% of the total budget. But the government is through corruption is 20%. It's like the budget of agriculture added to the budget of health, added to the budget of education. So we are having the total allocation of agriculture, health, education, and that is being what? And what you see is mushrooming apartments, mushrooming arcades, and then let them still as long as they are investing it in the country. And as they are investing in the country, you are having citizens die. So the money is the dividends that is coming out to the revenue coffers is just servicing just a small population.
Maybe
3%.
Yes, sir. We will come back to you and thank you for your passionate revelation of that situation, of that. It is too painful. I was beginning to feel pain entering into my heart, entering, going deeper. And it is quite really, it needs attention for all of us, whether with prayers and all action, as you say.
By the way, just a small intervention. The saddest part of it is now you cannot get a service without bribing.
Without bribing.
I'm believing the president, for him to get his budget in State House, he has to budget.
Classified expenditure to be
He has to
approved.
bribe Parliament. Because we have seen a member of Parliament exposing the parliamentarian. Maybe my colleague.
And you talk about it, I'll be coming to him to be talking about the classified expenditure.
Parliament came up and said that for me, I cannot take this money, I cannot be bribed to pass a budget. Now he has been nailed on the cross.
Thank you, Honorable. I'm going to be coming back to you. It is a good also insight which will be regarding on the, especially the institution of Parliament and the institutionalized corruption, especially which deals with the up-to-date and resolved question of how the government spends under that provision of classified expenditure, which remains such a bleeding system. Let's welcome you, sir, to give us you were taking us through on the situation analysis and giving us a comparison elsewhere what has been done and also the situation where we are. And we were I was very much interested, and the viewers, on behalf of the viewers, that indeed a lot is supposed to be done. First of all, in your opinion or point of view, and the generalized one on the institution of the civil society, and also the reality of corruption. It's a pleasure to welcome again Mr. Maron Agaba.
Yeah, before we went for the break, I was giving the example of Botswana, saying that if you're a young man and you build a house, buy a car after university, the first person who will ask you tough questions will be your relative, your father or mother. Yes, but here in Uganda now it's the other way around. If you have been to university, you are like media seeing you on TV, and you haven't put up anything in the village, a house or something, you don't own a big car, you'll be seen as a failure. So what am I saying is that we have built a culture, and this wasn't the case by the way, because we are told by our parents and elder people that before in the 60s, 70s, there was some level of integrity, and the people would reach even 40, 45 without building their first house, and it was quite okay. So the culture has evolved to an extent where now corruption is becoming a norm. I've even read some articles, people saying we should legalize corruption, it makes business much faster. That is a very sad reality, and it will take another generation or two to reverse that. Coming back, and again, the systems we have in place, I don't want to dwell so much on the law, but I will talk on the law very briefly. But coming back in the system we have in place, I mean, if someone can get the 40 million to give to members of parliament, 40 million times 500 members of parliament, 40 million. That is over 20 billion to give to members of parliament. And don't be deceived that is one member. Most of them got the money. Probably a few, 10 or 20 didn't. Remember the National Unity Platform president begging his members of parliament to return the money to where we pick it from, which means he knew that they received that money. And indeed, and this is not the first time members of parliament are receiving money that is not appropriated. So if you can get 20 billion and just give it to members of parliament without accountability, that's one day. Yes, without signing anywhere. I mean, and then you have an audit system in place that cannot detect that. So it shows you that the accountability mechanisms we have in place don't work. We expect them to work, and they will not work anytime soon. So I mean, going back to the whole issue, the biggest issue is the will, because the people listen to leaders, and the people are within a climate that has been set. If it is a voter deep down anywhere all over the country, and they know that members of parliament are getting 40 million free, they're getting monthly pay. When you come for the election, they also try to squeeze something out from you to get back. So it creates a whole cycle of corruption that you cannot fight unless there is clear and committed leadership. First of all at the top, but also at different levels. There are examples of China and Singapore, and a few countries within the region, maybe they've been giving examples of Rwanda, where they have tried to do well. There has been commitment from the leader, and it has trickled down to the citizens. And I strongly believe that if the leadership of this country made it known that corruption is risky, and people who are involved, they are arrested without favor, whether it is a minister or whatever you are arrested, that signal alone can change a lot in this country. When about the other point I want to make is the whole issue of recovery. We are losing 9.14 trillion, and this is just an estimation. It could be more. 9.14 trillion. And every year, annual, yes. Around 20%, like the Honorable said. And the corruption we're talking about corruption that is planned, that is budgeted, appropriated in Parliament, and then finally implemented and received. So that by this time, we are starting on the process of the budget, other processes. At this time, somebody is already planning what I need to put here somewhere where I will get 20 billion, 10 billion. They are already planning. It is planned. It's not something that happens, but it is planned. You know, corruption is a game of numbers. He was giving an example that, if for instance, I can steal 10 billion, you join me for 5 years. Yes, I can go in prison for 5 years. I come back and enjoy my money. Even if I worked for my entire life, I wouldn't earn that money. Now, so if a person says that it works for them, they'll go for that. Now it goes back to the whole issue of recovery of the money. You cannot defeat corruption without recovery. And the countries that have worked quite well at reducing corruption, there has been recovery. But we have problems with recovery. We talked about 9.14 being stolen annually. When we read at the report of the Inspectorate of Government, even if you add the Directorate of Public Prosecutions and State House, the combined money that is recovered from the corrupt annually is around 25 billion. That's when we have tried 25 billion recovered from around 9 trillion being stolen. It is not even 1%, just a very small fraction of what is recovered. So if people know that they can steal money and keep that money, even if they suffer the consequences, they can come back and enjoy that money. There is enough incentive for them to do what? To keep stealing. So we need to have it. When we go in some countries, other jurisdictions, and I'm glad we have a new parliament here. What countries are doing, they're even introducing what they call a non-conviction based asset recovery. That if you have been in public office, you have these assets, but you cannot sufficiently account for how you acquired them. Then the state can take away those assets from you. And this is being done. I mean, you have assets that you cannot explain how you acquired them. Then who else? Because people are very smart, and stealing now is IT based. People are using systems to steal, and it is very, very much possible that somebody would steal even billions, but you go in a trail and you don't find them anywhere. You hear about phone calls, you hear about what, you hear about sign here, sign there. There is no trail, but when the corruption can be seen and felt and smelt in what they own, that the person cannot own a short time. So we need to look at such a law. How do we recover back the money? The mechanism we have in the press right now is quite weak. The one that is being about, and recently we have been seeing, like the Inspectorate of Government, for instance, doing recoveries, and then sometimes people even remain in office. These people should be published. There are countries that publish them if you're convicted of corruption. Or like this one, so have come out willingly, and they have said yes, we have stolen, and they are even willing to bring back the money. Put them in papers, they see them, shame them. Everybody sees them. And now if you continue, like you said, romanticizing with them, please, we're going to hide your names, okay, you live freely and go. That is where now the problem comes in, that the incentives out there are much for people to get involved in the corrupt. And then the people, the citizens, like I've told civil society, what are we doing? We interact a lot with citizens. And the general feedback is that the citizens are also losing the momentum, they're also losing the impetus to get involved in this. Why? Because if you report someone as being corrupt today, And even sometimes they give examples that you go and report someone is corrupt. Before you leave the building from where I've reported, the person already knows. I've told him, and the guy is calling you, by the way, you told me from reporting, and you think anything will happen to me. And in the idea, nothing happens. These agencies of government, they have a huge backlog. I was checking one of them, I have around 4,000 cases that have been reported by citizens and they are unresolved. So if citizens report, first of all, and nothing is happening, they're seeing the corruption going around, they get resigned, and also instead now become involved in this. So for me, leadership is quite important at different levels, even by the way at family level. Of course, leadership at the top is very important, but even in the families, you have reached a level where within families, even there is corruption in families. There is corruption in schools. A child asking the parent, give me money, I'm running for office to go and buy sweets to give to my colleagues to vote for me. These things are starting at a young age and at the family level. So if you have to fight corruption, then the family, the communities, the religious leaders, everyone has to be involved. Everyone has to do what? Has to do their work. Unless that is done, and unless we have very committed leadership, now this is going to be even a much bigger pandemic. I'm going to COVID-19 that we have been fighting. This is a much bigger pandemic.
Yes, sir. I'm going just briefly to dwell on your role briefly, and yes, you've made a good submission. But I continue to look at the anti-corruption, where you are the executive director, the anti-corruption coalition. And in your submission, as we give information to the viewers, there is a tendency or a need to have different stakeholders on board. You mentioned the citizens. But again, there may be challenges that you might have faced where you are advocating for this fight against corruption. And the thing is, as a moderator, my expectation is that you are expected to be aligned with a number of stakeholders, including religious institutions. What do you think you've done best in this fight against corruption with your effort as a civil society organization, especially this good statement, the coalition? Because indeed, I do read it in understanding this means you are saying all hands together. That's a coalition. Yes, please.
First of all, citizens of this country, not all of them but majority, know that corruption is wrong, and actually know that corruption is there, and they know the different forms, because we usually do these surveys. So in terms of sensitization, it has been done, and people know that is wrong, but they still go ahead to participate in corruption.
Have you reached everywhere? You seem to be doing much more work than
doing the coalition. It means that we have partners throughout.
Partners.
I don't want to mention them, but we have regional, for instance, we have regional coalitions that are covering different areas all over the country. I will not go into that, and that is one organization like ours. There are several organizations working around that. So in terms of education, when we do the surveys, people, when we go to community meetings, and the people tell you that there is this problem, is that people are aware. Of course, the levels are different depending on where you go, but most of the people are aware that the corruption is there, and it's a problem. So we have done that. And also in terms of the bringing these proposals, we usually meet members of parliament. I've been telling them, for instance, about issues to do with leadership declaration, for instance, making these declarations public, because if a member of parliament has declared their wealth, why can't citizens access this information? They are the ones who will tell you whether what has been declared is true or not, because LGG doesn't have money to verify. If 25,000 leaders are declaring assets annually, and do you know how many leaders' assets are verified by the Inspectorate of Government? They are around 300, 400 annually from 25,000. And even the verification is quite expensive, but also, like I said, it is very small in scale. The people who can help you verify this information are the leaders. They say the own is what, and they give you this information. So I've been giving these proposals in terms of the law. I've been talking about issues even of protection of witnesses. People are willing to come and give evidence, but as an example I gave, you go and report before you leave. The person who have reported is already aware of reported them, and then there were reprisals. I've seen people going to prison. for no offense, but because they reported. We've talked about issues of asset recovery, how we recover money. We've talked about the proceeds of crime bill. That we have interacted with members of parliament, with members of the executive.
Okay.
We have shared on these different proposals, but of course, in some instances, the will, and even at parliament is where we have found that the will is not there, especially when it comes to asset declaration, because they know that in will also be affected by that if it happens.
Whenever I go to you, we can stumbling block those actions. As we go to break, then I will be coming back to another organization after I come back the break. Just 2 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you are going to
First of all, I would like to begin by disassociating myself from the 40 million issues.
Thank you.
I am not part and parcel. Those people who got that line. I wanted to make it first clear.
Yes, sir.
Secondly, to hint a bit on what my brother's been saying. I think there's lack of goodwill, generally, from the institution that should fight corruption. Right from the executives. An example I can cite, one, when we look at the deputy IGG, a position which is very crucial in the fight against corruption. Right from the year 1995 until 2013, there was nobody in that office. And yet the law clearly stipulates that if the deputy is not there, the institution of the IGG will not really clearly openly fight corruption. So if you could look at right from 1995 to 2013, there was nobody designated to head that deputy office. It means there's a lack of goodwill. Until when the international community, the donors, pressurize the executive, the president himself, to put in place that deputy, so that the office is made active to fight the corruption that was actually masquerading too much in the office. Then they put in place. So, that's not only example. There's a series of examples that you really see that there is lack of goodwill.
Will you hold on and then you will make more explanation on that so that we can urge those who are supposed to have this goodwill to rise up. They have slept for so long. We want to awaken them. Stay tuned with Smart 24 TV. We are still with Honorable Dennis and Wakavita Amere, the MP Chitubu Municipality, and we are also blessed to be with Honorable Wanizach Henry, the former Member of Parliament of Rwanda West, and Mr. Maron Agaba. Stay tuned with Smart 24 TV. See you in the next session.